Welcome back, all you Fabricants and Fleshbags, to the super, not funny show reviews. And today we are reviewing The Last of Us, Episode 3. It's entitled Long, Long Time. It's coming to you from HBO, streaming on HBO Max. So, what did we think about it? And should you be watching? And before you get down to the review, get down there and hit the like button on this video. Well, Lottie, we're up to episode 3 of The Last of Us, and it's a man. This was a long one. I was surprised. It's an hour
Yeah.
and 15 minutes long, uh, and it's immediately after the events of the previous episode in which Tess was infected and she sacrificed herself to like help Joel and Ellie kind of get a head start away from a horde of the infected, and in the process, Joel obviously look. The man's not. Obviously, he's not the most emotionally equipped person, and definitely not in showing emotion or whatever. So this episode kind of starts off, in the aftermath where he's sort of building a little monument to her on a riverside, and trying not to take it out on Ellie. Um, and she kind of tries to put him in his place. And you think like, oh man, well they got to go to Bill and Frank, so we're gonna watch them walk their way there, and they sort of do. But actually, that's not really what this episode's about. This episode is actually about who are Bill and Frank, and how are they connected to Joel and Tess, but more importantly, how do they survive the end of the world, and how in finding each other do they kind of make their world livable, I guess you could say. I'm simplifying this a lot. This is a long episode. It's basically a movie. It's basically a little mini movie about two people surviving the apocalypse the best they know how, and sort of finding love and living out a full life despite the world kind of being hell, and how that sort of relates to Joel. So I'm not going to go to I got more to say, but I want to hear what you had to say, or maybe I should go first, yeah, because
Yeah,
I don't
go
I don't
first.
I don't know the game,
Yeah.
except for what people say. Well, I freaking love this episode. I get, I can understand if people are like, what does this have to do with zombies or whatever, or The Last of Us and all that? Uh, and to which I say, this isn't a video game. This is, in fact, a TV show. And it needs to tell a story that's compelling with characters that matter. And the advancing of the storyline sometimes isn't as important as fleshing out the world. Or in this case, giving character to, revealing characters that maybe in the game didn't necessarily have that much time. And so they have a good hour and 15, I'd say an hour, because probably about 15 minutes worth of time is devoted to Ellie and Joel. An hour to show who Bill is, who was apparently a doomsday prepper and, maybe a far right conspiracy nut, and who Frank is, who was a guy that somehow managed to survive for 4 years after the fall of civilization, and fell into the right hole and found the right person. And you get to see these guys, go from I don't trust, who are you? I don't necessarily trust you, but I'm so lonely, and share a meal, and then realize that there's something there between them. And then over the years, just kind of building this, relationship and home and safe place. And then, Tess and Joel sort of come into play, and they become, working partners. But what's really important is they grow old together, and they survive the apocalypse together. They survive attacks together. And, at the end, they kind of go out on their own terms. And I thought it was top notch acting on the part of Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett, who plays Frank. Top notch acting, top-notch writing, just all the way around. I couldn't have asked for a better episode of a show, even though it's supposed to be about zombies and stuff. But it doesn't always have to just be about zombies. It's about people surviving the worst thing possible. So I have more to say other than that, but that's my general impression.
Yeah, I love this episode. I love this episode. It was a really good episode. But since I am the guy who played the video game, I will tell you the difference between this episode and the video game. And what I can tell you is everything that you saw in this didn't happen in the video game at all.
I suspected that. You know why? This is how I knew. When I was
Hmm.
watching the episode, I was like, this part with Ellie and Joel going into this gas station, that looks like a game encounter. That looks like something that would happen. Like you would be doing this in the video game. The part where
That
they're
didn't happen either.
well,
That
I
didn't
mean, but
happen
I
either.
get that, but
Yeah.
but it's very much a video gamey sort of situation. None
Hmm.
of the stuff that happened with Frank and Bill made me think that this was something you do in a video game.
Oh
Not
yeah, yeah.
not one scene with them seemed like something that they do in a video game. And I just knew, I felt it. But anyway, I interrupted, but I kind of knew that this wasn't part of the game.
So okay, here's another thing different. Bill is not that is actually younger than Joel in the video games. And Joel is actually younger in the video games by like 5 years. In the video games, Bill is probably like 40. You know what I mean? Instead of like his mid to late 40s. Um, we never actually see Frank in the video game whatsoever. Because basically Joel and Ellie gets to the town and Frank saves them from an attack because Joel accidentally gets caught in one of Frank's traps. And Frank ends up helping them and they get to the thing. And you know how the whole thing with the truck, how the truck was already there and all that stuff? In the game, they needed to find the truck battery. They needed to find a truck battery, and the only place they could think they could find a battery was inside of a school. So they ended up going through this whole adventure. Joel started talking to Bill about everything. Bill doesn't like Ellie whatsoever. You know what I mean? Because he pretty much Bill, his personality in the video game matches this personality in the show. But what happens, what completely is different, is that Bill and Frank don't die together. Frank dies by himself in a very, very, very sad way. Frank actually finds the car battery and tries to repair the truck. But during that time, he got bitten and left a letter to Bill. And the letter was actually not a very favorable letter to Bill. It was
Right.
actually like I hope whenever I die, I don't see you wherever I go, like type letter. And Frank hung himself because he didn't want to change.
Hmm.
And basically, Bill lives his life alone in that little encampment he has, while Joel and Ellie move on with their truck.
That's which. Let me just say that sounds way worse than what we got. the got in the show sounds way worse.
The reason why, I mean, in the game, there was just a lot of encounters and everything like that. So they, of course, they couldn't do that in the game because that would bore the gamer. You know, you don't just give us a whole bunch of cutscenes. So it's the reason why I believe they did that in the game is just to show that like there could be like people who work together but still hate each other because at the time we didn't know in the game we didn't know anything about Joel and Tess' true relationship. So I guess it was just trying to show the opposite of two people that live together and then Frank and him can live together and hate each other. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, but I will say this: there's two things about this episode that gives me pause. It makes me kind of like not cautious, more like cautiously pessimistic of how the show is going to go, and it all has to do with Ellie. And so here's the thing that remember I talked to you about how in the first episode, Marlene is pretty much basically like really like she's like Ellie's basically stepmom slash godmother. Like it's almost like her own daughter. But in the show, she doesn't care about Ellie. She kind of chained her up in a thing. You know what I mean? She's more treating her like a luggage instead of an actual person. So because of that, Ellie grew up with no compassion and she's not trusting. Because that scene that you saw with Ellie, what she did to the infected, the
Mm-hmm.
video game Ellie, the video game Ellie at that age would never do that because the video game Ellie actually is actually very compassionate towards the infected because she looks at it like she's like it like damn if I didn't have this like immunity I could be them, so she looks at them like that could have been me, and she actually asks Joel, do you think they're conscious in there or do you think they're dead? You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
to see Ellie cut open the person's head and stab it and with no feeling, it kind of like the hell they're making like Ellie like not care about the living or even anything at all. And also the little part where Ellie took the gun and hid it from Joel. That is going to, I'm not going to tell you what the scene is, but when it happens, because I know exactly what they're doing. When you get to that scene, I'll bring it up. It completely turns the scene that's coming up going to be completely different because of that. So it's like I'm kind of cautiously pessimistic because I'm like, because now the ending that I felt was going to happen is going to be completely different
Mm-hmm.
because of Ellie's character.
Well, I think they've been signaling like if you know the games very well, you'll recognize a lot of what's going on, but they're definitely going to be taking some detours or some left turns where you're thinking there's a right turn. They've already done it several times apparently in the show on some major and some minor things. So yeah, I would say if you're anticipating a certain end, a certain specific end, maybe don't bank on that. You know, at the very least,
Mm.
you're right. Ellie is. She seems like a lot tougher. Just like she's more naive, less wise, but not particularly bothered by the practical aspect of having to deal with the infected. And yeah, she doesn't. She sees them for what they are, beyond hope. Which I would hope anyone living in this world doesn't look at them and be like, they can be cured. No, no, they can't. Like it's pretty clear they can't. So like, don't be looking at them like they are, you know, fully functional people. If you just get that, get those cobwebs out of their brains. That's not the way that's going to work. Um, as far as her character, I really I like Bella Ramsey. She's doing her thing. I like that she's willing to stand up for herself and she's willing to kind of give Joel the business. But also she recognizes like, hey, this guy knows what the hell he's doing. So when he said, hey, my way or the highway, she's like, okay, cool, we can do that. You know. And I like that she was like, "Hey, don't be blaming me for this. I didn't ask you to do anything. You guys said you were going to do it, and she died. That's not on me. I didn't even make the deal with you. I'm just the package." And I think that's right. But also that Joel is against his desires otherwise is getting attached to her, and I think that was an inevitability, and that in some way when when Bill says, "Hey, you and I are alike," he's right. They are alike. They don't have any other reason to live. Joel didn't have any other reason to live except, "Hey, I'm gonna keep Tessa. You know, look out for her. She's gone now. Now it's got to be Ellie." And when Bill was just like, Frank wanted to be done with the world because he had, not because he was mad or depressed or whatever, but because he had a, debilitating disease that made his living so difficult that he just didn't want to do it anymore. You know?
You, I'm gonna say this, and I think it's true. I think, uh, I think he they knew he had cancer
Well, I don't know if
way
even know if it was.
earlier.
I don't even know if it was cancer. I think he could have just as easy. Someone said he could have had ALS or some other kind of like, disease that degenerates your ability to kind of like, you know, keep to move yourself around. There are many kind of
Yeah.
diseases that could do that. That's
Oh yeah,
not.
but I think he knew. I was just saying, like, I think whichever like the disease he had, I think he knew they both knew he had it a while ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the hints were dropped where what's his name was like, we have medicine, when Joel was like saying that we have medicine, and then remember the part where he got shot, he was like, call Joe, he'll take care of you, he'll take care of you. I'm
Yeah.
like, part of me when I first heard that, I was just like, he could take care of himself. Oh wait. Then when I saw the future, oh, that's why he said
Yeah.
that, because he
And
knew he had a disease.
let
They
me
knew.
just say what a like a big change, because like at the 10 year he's like, I'm getting old faster than you, and Frank's the picture of health, and then 10 years later he's in a wheelchair and they're all gray and everything. Like it's, I think someone said they spent 16 years together on that compound, just surviving and thriving, and toward the end it was just like too hard. you know I again, Nick Offerman, I mean, God, that guy was just he was doing so much work, like just his acting his ass off. In that, I did not know who Murray Bartlett was. I do now. He's apparently Australian, but he was really good. And he's in another show called White Lotus that everyone seems to like. But I mean, we could keep going on, but like I think overall, just this is a masterclass on in many levels of writing, how you adapt something from one medium to another without losing the spirit, but also adding things to the story, like in a way that I think this is going to change the way some people look at some aspects of the game. I think this is a masterclass in acting. And it's really just two people. For the most part, it's really just two people acting in this against each other and doing a phenomenal job. And I thought the direction in it was excellent. There's some aspects of this episode, like the firefight, like when the fire on around the perimeter and they're dealing with the bandits and whatever. I thought it was really good action directing. The cinematography was really good, but then a lot of the other stuff is just two people talking, or sort of, it's two people arguing, or kind of interacting, or they're having dinner together, and it's just framed so nicely. I just all the way around, it's easily the best episode of the season, and one of the best episodes of TV I've seen in a long time. Like, and I watch a lot of TV, and this is one of the best I've seen. So I don't know if you had any final thoughts, Lottie.
Yeah, yeah, I'm 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 very curious to see what happens next episode. Um, if the way I'm thinking, expect a lot of action next episode.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's
There
all.
after this last episode of not much, probably so. So, all right. Well, those are our thoughts on this episode. What did you guys think about it? And what do you think about what we had to say? Get down to the comment section, leave your thoughts there. And of course, you can always hit us up. SuperNotFunnyShow@gmail.com or @SuperNotFunnyS1 on Twitter. And do us a favor, get down there, hit the like button on this video, hit the subscribe and notification bells. All that good stuff helps more people to see these videos and helps grow the channel. All right, all you Fabricants and Fleshbags, thanks for joining us. Come back next week. We got episode 4 of The Last of Us. Till then, I've been Mo De Poupée, your resident fabricant and comment extraordinaire on all things pop culture, joined by the anime expert, video game designer, and lover of all things superhero, my good friend Lottie. We'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.
Peace.